This is the meaning of market value. So in these terms, in market value, they have to pay some amount now. Okay. So what is the meaning of money? Here money means any Indian legal tender or any foreign currency. Okay. Either check or any promissory note. You know the what is the meaning of promissory note and bills of exchange. Also comes under letter of credit, any draft or any pay order, either traveler check or money order, and also postal or electronic remittance or any other instrument recognized by the Reserve Bank of India. రిజర్వ్ బ్యాంక్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా నుంచి ఏవైతే ప్రిఫరెన్సబుల్ ఉంటాయో దట్ మీన్స్ దట్ వన్ ఇంక్లూడ్ ఫారిన్ కరెన్సీయా చెక్ ప్రామిసరీ నోటా బిల్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్చేంజా ఎట్సెట్రా. ఓకే. This money means settle on obligation or any exclusions of numerical value. So under section 2, subsection 75, Reserve Bank recognition values ni that one is considered as money. So in the case of market value, who is the recipient? Recipient అనుకున్నాం కదా. Who are comes under recipient? Recipient of supply of goods or services are both. That means what? Where a consideration is payable for the supply of goods or services or both the person. Here goods and services ఏవైతే consideration మనకు payable చేస్తామో who is liable to pay that consideration was called recipient. What is the meaning of recipient here? Where a consideration is payable for the supply of goods or services or both. The person who is liable to pay that consideration, that one is considered as recipient. And also, if in the case of where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, in that case, the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available or to whom possession or use of the goods is given or made available. Okay. Where if in the case of no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available or to whom possession or use of the goods is given or made available are called recipient. And one more, where no consideration is payable for the supply of services. First one is supply of goods. Next one is what? If no consideration is payable for supply of services, the person to whom the service is rendered. ఎప్పుడైతే ఎవరికైతే సప్లై ఆఫ్ గూడ్స్ చేసినామో దాన్ని రిసిపియెంట్ అంటాడు. సో ఇన్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ నో కన్సిడరేషన్ ఇన్ ద కేస్ ఆఫ్ సప్లై ఆల్సో హూ the person to whom to service is rendered, that person is called and comes under recipient. Okay. So consideration payable, yes or no? Consideration payable, if yes, that means consideration is applicable. Goods or services lo person liable to pay. If in the case of no consideration, goods whom it is delivered and whose use that goods. And in the case of services, person to whom services is rendered. That one is considered as recipient. So now, first, what is the heading here? Valuation of GST. In the valuation of GST, first we have to find what is the value of supply. Value of supply means what? Here, first you have to know about the agent. After that, you know about the market value and consider as what is the meaning of money. Next, value of supply. How to calculate? Supply in money in unrelated person. So unrelated persons means here what, how to calculate section 6, section 15 under section subsection 1. Value means here price both are not related and price equal to, that means value equal price both are not related and also price equal to sole consideration. plus, and also you have to add to that the price. Section 15, subsection 2, areas that then GST duties and any cess should be added to value. And that means, for example, when you are going to the shop, have purchased some goods, that value is 100 rupees. On that 18 percentage or depends upon goods, you have to pay the GST 5 percentage. You know the slabs, 5 slabs. Zero slabs are 5 percentage, 12 percentage, or 18 percentage. So you have to add that price, and if any cess also should be added to that value. Payment to third party. In the case of any payment to third party on behalf of suppliers in relation to supply, also have to add. And incidental expenses, any expenses like delivery charges, any installation charges, like that, have to add to that price. And also any indirect, that means late fee, delayed payment, and also any subsidy other than uh, SG and C, that means state goods or central goods. So first, how to calculate the value of supply of goods or services. First, you have to take the price that under section 15, subsection 1, that means value of the goods, not, and add to that under section 15 to any taxes, any, that means GST duties or any cess, and any payment to the third party on behalf of suppliers in relation to supply. Also, if any expenses and indirect expenses, and also any late fee have to add to the price. After that, you deduct from this, for example, 100 rupees, 100 rupees is the goods value annam. 18% and 18 rupees is the tax anukundam. 2 rupees, 2 rupees is the commission annam. So 8 to 18 rupees, 2 rupees, 20 rupees, 100% value ante 100% plus 20, 120 is the value up to this. And one more here, deduct from this any discount is applicable. If discount applicable అయితే ఏం చేస్తాం, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ టోటల్ ఇప్పుడు హౌ మచ్ ద వాల్యూ ఆఫ్ ద సప్లై 120 రూపీస్ అన్నాడు, 10% డిస్కౌంట్ అని అనుకోండి ఆన్ 120, discount 10% means 12 rupees. 120 minus 12 means what? 108 rupees is the value of the supply. Like that, you have to calculate. Is it clear? This is the value. If supply in money unrelated person is not related, under section 15, subsection 4, have to valuation the rules. And also section 15.5 notification by farmer the sub this section. So how it is? What is the meaning of 15 section 1, 15 subsection 1, under section 15 subsection 2? What is the valuation of transaction value and inclusion in transaction value and price actually paid or payable for supply? These are all important topics in this. So first we have to know if supplies to unrelated person where price is the sole consideration. What is the topic here? If suppliers to unrelated person where price is the sole consideration. How to know? First one is transaction value, section 15, subsection 1. How to calculate? Value of supply of goods or services or both shall be the transaction value, which is the actual price paid. Actual price paid or payable for the supply. Okay. Here, between two persons who are not related to each other, and also price is the sole consideration for the supply. This is the main topic. Transaction value, how to calculate the value of supply of goods or services are both under section 15, subsection 1. The transaction value is which is price actually paid or payable for the said supply. That means between two persons who are not related to each other, and also price is the sole consideration for the supply. Okay. Now, second one, inclusions in transaction value. Which one is included in that? Section 15, subsection 2. First, you have to calculate the transaction value now. After that, you have to add to this. The taxable value includes certain elements in addition to price, the ingredients of taxable value based on transaction value are enumerated. What are that? First, you have to price actually paid or payable for the supply. And after that, if any taxes or duties, fees, and charges levied under any state other than CGST Act, or also if they comes under SGST Act or the UTGST Act and the GST Compensation to State Act, that means CGST means Central Goods and Service Tax Act, SGST means State Goods and Service Tax Act, and UTGST means Union Territory Goods and Service Tax, like that. If charged separately, any charge, for example, transaction value under IGST will include taxes other than the IGST. And the compensation says in terms of third provision to section, under section, what section here? Under section IGST Act 20, like that. Okay. So first, have to take the price. After that, if you have add any taxes in different acts, like CGST, SGST, UTGST. So after that, if any third party included in that, payments to third parties or any amount that the supplier is liable to pay. But here, important point is which has been incurred by the recipient of the supply and not already included in the price. What is the meaning of here? Not included in the price. Okay. So after that, you take the any incidental expenses. For example, in that commission, packing, any recipient, any supplier to the recipient of the supply, these are all. Okay, after that, if you add interest or any late fee or any penalty for delayed payment of consideration, also you have to add to the price. Last one, subsidies provided in any manner like linked to the price other than subsidies given by the state or central government. State or central government ఇచ్చే subsidies కాకుండా if you have any subsidies, that one also you have to add to the price. These are all called what is the inclusion in transaction value. Here, what is the meaning of transaction value here? Value of supply of goods or services are both shall be the transaction value, which is price actually paid or payable for the supply. Add to the inclusion transaction value. Okay. So how to decide price actually paid or payable for the supply under section 15.1. Here, the transaction value which is applicable between which persons? Unrelated persons now, where and also have to take the price is the sole consideration for the supply. How? The price actually paid or payable for the supply of goods or services or both. This is the price for the specific supply that is being valued. It includes what is that? The amount already paid at the time the supply is being valued for tax, as well as and also amount payable and not yet paid at the time. Okay. So the word payable refers to price that is agreed to be paid. The price is what is the price here? Agreed to paid for the goods or services. So when you take, for example, to take That contract price of IMT of cement from X limited to Y 7,000. Okay, what is that? Contract price for IMT of cement from X limited to Y. What is the price here? 7,000. Contract price, contracted price. Here, advance payment before dispatch 700. Okay, and payable after credit period of 30 days 6,300. So base taxable value rupees 7,000 అనుకోండి. In this case, if there are two, three types, how to calculate the value of the GST. Here, if in the case of taxes other than GST, if charged separately by the supplier under section 15, subsection 2A, what is that here? GST and GST cess are not part of taxable value, but other taxes and also cess, any fees, etc., will form part of the value of taxable supply. Okay, if separately billed అన్నాడు అనుకోండి, for in, if a supplier of goods paid say municipal tax in relation to the goods being supplied and bills the same separately, such tax will form part of the value. Okay, so bill is separately. If separately bill municipal tax, if any he paid municipal tax relation to the goods, such tax will form part of the value of taxable supply. This one is important. Okay, if in the same situation, if the supplier pays the municipal tax but does not charge the same separately. Here, if separately billed, but in the case of not charged the same separately, it is not liable to tax. However, if the supplier factors it as cost, that means adds it to product cost in the costing, then tax on whole value charged by him only. Okay, separately, if separately paid, if not separately paid. This is the main important point. Okay. So payments made to third parties by the recipient on behalf of the supplier in relation to the supply. First one is what? Taxes other than GST if charged separately by the supplier. Next what? Price actually paid or payable for the supplier. Third one is what? Payments made to third parties by the recipient on behalf of the supplier in relation to the supply. What is that? Here, if a supplier may need to incur various expenses in order to make a particular supply of goods or services in the normal course, he would pay these amounts and they would form part of the value that he charges from the customer. That means customer means here what? Here recipient of the recipient of the supply. So, however, if even if the customer makes different direct payment of some of such liabilities, that means of the supplier to the third parties, and the supplier does not include this amount in his bill. Why? Because it would still form part of the value of the taxable supply only, not included in this. If, for example, when you take here, you take ABC company, Hyderabad, enters into a contract to deliver the goods to BCD company at Chennai. What is that? ABC company, Hyderabad, enters into a contract to deliver the goods to BCD company, Chennai. However, during the delivery, the transportation charges are paid by BCD company instead as agreed in the agreement. Okay. Now, the transportation charges are liable to be included in bill raised by ABC company only, not in the BCD company. Are you clear? Shall I repeat once again? Here, for example, what is the situation here? payments made to third parties by the recipient on behalf of the supplier in relation to the supply. Which section here? Under section 15, subsection 2b. When you take, for example, what is the example here? ABC Company Hyderabad enters into a contract to deliver the goods to BCD Company at Chennai. Here, however, during delivery, the transportation charges are paid by whom? BCD Company instead of as agreed in the agreement. Also, now the transportation charges are liable to pay included in bills raised by ABC Company. Next, incidental expenses. What are the incidental expenses? The incidental expenses such as any commission and packing charged by the supplier or anything else done by the supplier in relation to the supply at the time of or before the delivery of goods. This one is very, very important. Incidental expenses, example is what? If any commission or any packing charges by the supplier or anything else done by the supplier when in relation to the supply at the time of or before the delivery of goods or supply of services must be added to the value. Must be added to the value when before the delivery of the goods or supply of services. For example, when you take commission, here commission is included in incidental expenses. That commission is maybe paid to an agent and recovered from the buyer of the goods or services also. This is part of the value of the supply. This is the part of the supply. And when you take packing, if charged by the supplier to the recipient, is similarly part of the value of the supply. Okay. And any inspection or certification charges are another element that may be added to bill to the recipient of supply. Okay. So installation and incidental expenses also included any installation charges or any testing charges at the recipient site will also be added, being an amount charged for something done by the supplier or in receipt of the supply at the time of making the supply. These are all included in incidental expenses. Okay, incidental expenses. So, interest, late fee, and any penalty for delayed payment. This one is considered as section 15, subsection 2D. The value for a taxable supply will include not only the base price, not only the base price, but also the charge for delay in payment. So the value of taxable supply, that means value of tax, value of GST, you have to know the valuation of the supply, how to value the valuation of the supply, either goods or services or both. And first you have to transaction value, inclusion of transaction value. What are the inclusions of the transaction value? That means for taxes, commission, and any incidental expenses or any interest or late fee. So these are all included in transaction value. So for example, when you take any when you have to pay any interest or any late fee for the penalty, sorry. Here, a supply priced at 2000 is made with a credit period of 1 month for payment. Thereafter, interest of 12% is charged. What is the credit period here? 1 month. So, The payment is received after the lapse of 2 months from the date of supply. That means you have to pay within the 1 month now. So the amount of 12% per annum, that means that is 1% per month. 1 month for payment, thereafter interest is 12% is charged, means 1% per month on 2000 for 1 month after the free credit period is how much here? 20 rupees. So here 20 rupees is the penalty late fee. So such sorry interest you have to pay. So such interest will be added to the value and thus the value of taxable surplus will work out how much here? 2000 rupees plus 20 total. What is the value here? 2020. Next. One more topic under section 15, subsection 2E, subsidiaries. Here, subsidy is a sum of money given to keep the price of a service or commodity low. Yes or no? If the subsidy is given by the either state government or central government. The lower price after adjusting the subsidy is the taxable value. How to calculate? What is the taxable value here? The lower price after adjusting the subsidy of the taxable value. And one more. If the subsidy is given by a person or any entity here other than the state or central government, it does not lower the taxable value. What is the taxable value here? The subsidy is added to the value of supply of the supplier who receives the subsidy. So, once again, I repeat, in the case of subsidy, subsidies comes under which section? 15 subsection 2. If here two situations, if the subsidy is given by the state or central government, and second is what? If the subsidy is given by a person or any entity other than the state or central government. In the case of first situation, if the subsidy is given by the state or central government, in that case, you have to take the transaction taxable value, lower price after adjusting the subsidy is the taxable value. And second situation is what? If the subsidy is given by a person or any entity other than the state or central government, it does not lower the taxable value. What is the taxable value? The subsidy is added to the value of supply of the supplier who receives the subsidy. Is that value? Okay. If you take one example, for example, the selling price of a notebook, the selling price of a notebook is 50 rupees. Take 50 rupees. For notebooks sold to students in government schools, here government or other than government. So sold to students in government schools, a company uses its CSR funds to pay the seller 30 rupees. So that the student pay only 20 rupees per notebook. What is the value? Actual value is what? 50 rupees. But the CSR కింద CSR funds కింద ఎంత 30 rupees వస్తుంది say. So here students have to pay only 20 rupees per notebook. Here the taxable value of the notebook will be 50 rupees as this is a non-government subsidy. If the same subsidy is paid by the central government or state government, the taxable value of the notebook will be 30 rupees. Like that. Have to either state government or other than state government. Okay. So next word, exclusion of discounts from transaction value. Exclusion of discounts from transaction value, section 50, subsection 3. How to calculate? So, which one? Just now we told discount. Okay, that one is meaning. up to this, what should be, have to add the price. అంటే వాల్యూకి మనం ఒకవేళ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ when you buy the any goods, for example textbook or any notebook, okay, సో ద యాడ్ ఆ ప్రైస్కి ఏమేమి యాడ్ చేయాలనేది నేర్చుకున్నాం. ఇప్పుడు ఏవి ఎక్స్క్లూజన్ అంటే ఏవి డిడక్ట్ చేస్తాము. హియర్ డిస్కౌంట్ దట్ ఆర్ అలౌడ్ బిఫోర్, what is the main important point here? Discount allowed before or at the time of supply, and also the discount should be shown in the invoice. In that case only you have to deduct. And discount that are allowed after supply in terms of an agreement, in the case of any agreement that existed at the time of supply. You know what is the time of supply, location of the supply, like that. In the case of, if discounts that are allowed after supply in terms of an agreement that existed at the time of supply and are worked out invoice wise, and the proportionate input tax credit is reversed by the recipient. Okay. So here before and at that time. This one is very important. For example, sorry. When you take Royal Biscuit Company, gives a discount of 30% on the list price to its distributors. What is that? Royal Biscuit Company gives a discount of 30% on the list price to its distributors. Thus, for a carton of Spice Big, in the invoice, the list price is mentioned as, what is the price here in invoice? 200. On which a discount of 30% is given to arrive at the final price of 140. Okay. So here the what is the taxable value is 140 rupees, as the discount is allowed at the time of supply and also shown in the invoice. What is the main important? Discount allowed at the time of supply and also it should be shown in invoice. In that case only discount is applicable. Okay. And one more important topic. If discount deductible from value of supply, how to follow? If in the case of any agreement of Raju Electronic Applications with its dealers is that sale of price cookers of 100 pieces in the Diwali month will entitle them to discount of 5 per cooker sold in the next month. This is the agreement value, not in the case of time of supply. The stock has already been dispatched when the sales figures for the Diwali month are worked out. Listen carefully here what happened. The agreement of Raju Electrical Appliances with its dealers is that sale of rice cookers over 100 pieces in the Diwali month will entitle them to discount of 5% per cooker sold in the next month's. Stock has already been dispatched when the sales figure for the Diwali month are worked out. So how it is? As the agreement was in existence at the time of supply, yes or no? And the discount can be worked out for each invoice. Worked out means you have to write each invoice. The taxable value will be billed price minus 5%. Yes or no? The dealer must reverse the proportionate input tax credit on the relevant stock to bring it in the line with the reduced tax. Okay, so what is the important point here? Agreement date should always proceed the supply. And for example of non-deductible discount, when it is non-deductible. Okay, what is that? If a company announces turnover discounts after reviewing dealer performance during the year, the discounts are based on performance slabs and are given as cashback. As these discounts were not known at the time of supply of the goods, they will not be deducted from taxable value. Time of supply is very important, and also shown in the invoice is compulsory. In that case only discount applicable. If not in this case, the discount is not applicable. Okay. And suppliers where value cannot be determined under section 15(1). మనం price calculate చేయలేకపోతున్నాం. And notified suppliers, that means uh, just now we discussed subsections 4 and subsection 5 of section 15. So what is the section 15? Subsection 4 lays down that where subsection 1 is not applicable, in that case, if the transaction is with a related party and our price is not the sole consideration for the supply of goods or services, then how to decide the valuation of the GST? Then the value will be determined in the manner as prescribed, which means as stipulated in the rules for valuation. Further, section 15, subsection 5 lays down that in respect of certain notified suppliers also, the value will be determined in the manner as stipulated in the rules for valuation. It started earlier. These rules will be finally. Okay. So here, value of the supply, valuation of GST, that means valuation of supply under section 15, whether price is the sole consideration for supply. No, supply to be valued as per determine the value of supply of GST rules, whether supply and the recipient are related, whether supply is a notified supply under section 15, the assessable value, transaction value, plus certain elements specified under section 15, subsection 2 to 15(3). Okay, these are the calculation of valuation of GST. In that case, first we have to find out the valuation of the supply. After that, what is the percentage? Either 12 percentage, 5 percentage, 8 percentage, sorry, 0 percentage, 12%, 5 percentage, 12 percentage, 18 percentage, like that. We have to calculate. This is the procedure for valuation of GST. First, we have to calculate the valuation of supply. Okay. Next, in third unit, give 1 minute. What are the remaining topics? Tax deducted source and tax collected at source, last class completed. Valuation completed. And accounting under GST also completed. Advance accounting also completed. Next one in block 3, input tax credit, just we discussed about the introduction part, how introduction part, and also how to claim the ITC in the case of CGST, SGST, and IGST. First you have when you IGST loan input tax credit ఉందంటే first you have to pay the IGST. After that you pay to the CGST. Last, if you have any remaining still amount was there, in that case you have to pay the SGST. Okay, like that. Next one, in input tax credit, one more topic is also there. For input tax credit, registration. How it is registration. Before the registration, see the eligibility for taking ITC. Eligibility for taking ITC under section 16(1). Okay. So what is the eligibility criteria? You know the SESNA special economic zones, that means with our northern states. Already we discussed in fifth sem. Okay. So here eligibility and conditions for the taking input to tax credit. Here section 16. Okay. Violation of the GST under section 15 and input to tax credit section 16. So eligibility criteria under section 16 subsection 1, person should be registered person. Okay, compulsory under the GST, compulsory registration person ayi undali. Used in business and ITC credited to ECL. What is the meaning of ECL? Electronic Credit Ledger. Okay. And also duty paid any documents, that means invoice, and receive the goods tax to be paid to the government. Only tax is hence not consideration, and also any returns by the supply, compulsory returns చేసి ఉండాలి, రిజిస్టర్ పర్సన్ అయి ఉండాలి, and used in business and ITC credited to ఎక్కడ ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ క్రెడిట్ లెడ్జర్ లో ITC క్రెడిట్ చేసి ఉండాలి. ఓకే. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ ప్రాసెస్ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్ అన్నాం. హౌ టు రిజిస్టర్ అండర్ GST. Every registered person shall be entitled to ITC charged on inward supply of goods or services. Inward supply of goods or services means what? Purchase of goods or supply of services. In this, if any, for in regarding this, any provisions relating to use of ITC under section 49 and the conditions or any restrictions in the rules you have to follow. What are that? Goods or services to be used for business purposes only. Here, goods or services used for business purpose only. If ITC will be available on goods or services which are used in the course or furtherance of business and meaning lane ఉన్నాయి, and the intention to use the goods or services in the course or furtherance of business would also lead to availing of credit on such goods and services. In this case, tax paid on goods or services which are used or intended to the intended to be used for non-business purposes cannot be availed at credit. ITC will be credited as electronic credit ledger only. ఎక్కడ ECL, electronic credit ledger only. What are the conditions to taking the ITC? Conditions is comes under which section? Section 16, subsection 2. In this case, the registered person will be entitled to ITC on supply only of all the four conditions. The following four conditions will be satisfied. What are the conditions? The first condition is possession of tax paying document under section 16, subsection 2A. How? Invoice issued by the supplier of goods and services. The documents compulsory have to attach that invoice issued by a supplier of goods or services, and invoice issued by recipient, that means receiving goods or services from unregistered supplier along with proof of payment of tax. and a debt note issued by supplier, bill of entity or similar document prescribed under the Customs Act also, any revised invoice, if in the case of document issued by input service provider, distributor, ISD. ISD means what here? Input service distributor. ISD last exam లో కూడా మీకు వీటి గురించి వచ్చింది. Okay. Here, what is the important point here? Section 16 and the CGST rules do not specify that a particular copy of the invoice along will form the basis of taking ITC. But here, however, Rule 48 of the CGST rules specify that the original copy is for the recipient of goods. The original copy may preferably be kept for record to support the credit entry. Yes or no? That one is compulsory. Not in the CGST Act కింద కాకున్నప్పటికీ CGS రూల్ సెక్షన్ 16 కింద రూల్ కాకపోయినప్పటికీ 48 రూల్ అండర్ CGST ప్రకారంగా మాత్రం ఒరిజినల్ కాపీకి ప్రూఫ్ తీసుకొని పెట్టుకోవాలి. Next, receipt of the goods or services under section 16 2B. The person taking the ITC must have received the goods or services. Receive the goods or services. For example, if bill to ship to, and that means model also included. Under this model, the goods are delivered to a this party on the direction of the registered person who purchases the goods from the supplier. Okay. So here receipt of goods under section 16 to be includes delivery to customer person on direction of the registered person by way of transfer of discount. Of take to goods or service goods otherwise so ITC will be available to the registered person on whole or the goods are delivered to the third person. Okay. So if you take one example, here A is a trader who places an order on B for a consignment of soda ash. A receives a buying order from C from the same quantity of soda ash. Okay. So here, before that, A instructs to B to deliver the goods to C, and in turn he raises an invoice on C. So that goods are not physically received at the premises of A. Yes or no? The condition of section 16 to be satisfied and A is entitled to ITC on the consignment. Okay. Once again, repeat what happened here. A is the trader and he placed an order on B for a consignment of soda ash. Here, A receives the buying order from C for the same quantity of soda ash. Here, A instructs to B to deliver the goods to C, and in turn, he raises an invoice on C also. So, the goods are not physically received at the premises of A. The condition of section 16 to subsection B is satisfied and A is entitled to ITC on the consignment. Okay. And tax payable on supply actually paid to government. Actually paid to government. Here, the tax should actually have been paid by cash or through utilization of ITC on the goods or services for which ITC is being taken. However, provisional ITC can be taken initially prior to matching in the common portal, that means www.gst.portal, are given under the heading how ITC available and utilized. You can see for more details also. Okay. Next, filing of return. Filing of returns is one more topic. That one is have, and the registered person taking the ITC must have filled the return under section 39 also. If in the case of goods received in lots, that means ITC available on receipt of last lot. under section 16, subsection 2. In this case, goods covered under an invoice are not received in a single consignment but are received in lots installment. The ITC can be taken only upon receipt of the last installment, last lot or last installment only. And you take example, for example, here XYZ makes an advance payment in August and order 10 MT of a particular chemical which is in short supply. The supplier of the chemical raises a bill for the entity's amount in August and collects GST from XYZ on the advance paid. Advance payment also you have to pay the tax now. So that is the chemical is delivered in lots over a period of 3 months and the supply is completed in November. Okay. So here what happened? XYZ paid some tax in advance as early as August. So he can take the ITC only on receipt of last installment of the chemical 1 month. Okay, chemical in the month of November only. When you receive, in that case only, you select the ITC. You take the ITC. Okay, this is one regarding ITC. So now you know the in third block valuation of GST and input tax credit mechanism under the GST. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can stop. Clear? Yeah. So today we have discussed about valuation of GST and input tax credit. Okay, na? Bye. Bye.